Hello and welcome back to Cartography and Geography Club. Today, we'll journey through the vibrant land of Mexico. We'll delve into Mexico's rich history, its current geography, and the contemporary territorial disputes shaping the nation's borders. You can also follow along as we put the major areas we cover on our map. Our story begins in ancient times, where various indigenous civilizations such as the Olmec, Maya, and Aztec thrived. These early civilizations established the foundation of what would later become modern-day Mexico. Before the arrival of the Spanish in the early 16th century, the region now known as Mexico was inhabited by various indigenous people, each with their own territorial borders. These borders were not fixed in the same way as modern political boundaries and often fluctuated due to conflicts, alliances, and migrations among indigenous groups. The Aztec Empire, for example, had a central area of control around the Valley of Mexico, with tributary states and alliances extending outward. Other civilizations, such as the Maya in the south and various groups in the northern regions, had their own territories and borders as well. It's important to recognize that these borders were fluid and constantly shifting over time. The arrival of European colonizers, particularly the Spanish, added another layer of complexity to Mexico's border history. The territory known as New Spain had to navigate colonial pressures and indigenous resistant movements. During this period, Mexico's borders were not fixed as they are today. The Spanish colonial administration expanded its territorial gradually, encountering various indigenous civilizations. The borders were constantly shifting due to conquests, treaties, and conflicts with other colonial powers such as France and Portugal. Mexico's territorial boundaries evolved significantly over time until it gained independence from Spain in the early 19th century. Under Spanish rule, Mexico faced territorial challenges and internal struggles for independence. The Mexican War for Independence was a significant armed conflict that lasted from 1810 to 1821, ultimately leading to Mexico's independence from Spanish colonial rule. It was sparked by the Grito de Dolores, a call to rebellion made by the priest Miguel Hidalgo y Castillo on September 16, 1810. The war saw various leaders emerge, including Jose Maria Morelos and Vincent Guerrero, who continued the fight for independence after Hidalgo's capture and execution in 1811. The war concluded with the signing of the Treaty of Cordoba in 1821, which recognized Mexico as an independent nation. During the 19th and 20th centuries, Mexico faced significant challenges regarding its borders, including territorial disputes with the United States, particularly over areas such as Texas and California. The signing of treaties like the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848 and the Gadsden Purchase in 1853 resulted in Mexico ceding significant territories to the United States. Despite these territorial losses, Mexico embarked on a path of nation-building and modernization efforts. The Mexican Revolution in the early 20th century paved the way for social, political, and economic reforms aimed at strengthening the country internally. The revolution was a complex and multifaceted armed conflict that took place between 1910 and 1920. It was sparked by widespread discontent with the long-standing dictatorship of Porfirio Diaz and fueled by various social, economic, and political grievances, including land equality, labor exploitation, and lack of political representation. The revolution resulted in the overthrow of Porfirio Diaz in 1911 and the drafting of a new constitution in 1917, which including provisions for land reform, labor rights, and other social reforms. Despite the formal end of the armed conflict in 1920, the revolution's legacy continued to shape Mexican politics and society through the 20th century. By the early 20th century, Mexico's borders were more or less defined in the way we recognize them today. However, there were still minor disputes and adjustments, especially along the border with the United States and Guatemala. Today, Mexico's major territorial disputes include its maritime borders in the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific Ocean. These disputes primarily revolve around issues of resource exploitation and sovereignty over offshore oil reserves. Moving on to the geography of Mexico, the country is located in North America and boasts a diverse landscape that includes deserts, mountains, rainforests, and coastlines. With a land area of approximately 1.96 million square kilometers, Mexico is bordered by the United States in the north, Guatemala and Belize to the southeast, and the Pacific Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico to the west and east, respectively. Physical landscape of Mexico is characterized by several prominent features. In the north, the arid terrain of the Chihuahua and Sonoran deserts dominate the landscape, while the Sierra Madre mountain range run along the western and eastern sides of the country. Mexico is home to diverse ecosystems, including tropical rainforests in the south, desert scrublands in the north, and pine oak forests in the central highlands. These ecosystems support a wide variety of flora and fauna, making Mexico one of the world's mega-diverse countries. As for Mexico's major rivers, the Rio Grande forms part of the border between Mexico and the United States, while the Usumacinta River serves as the natural boundary between Mexico and Guatemala. It is clear that Mexico's boundaries and geography will continue to shape North America. Thank you for joining me today, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great week, and don't forget to never stop learning.